Cuckoo! Put on your earphones. Woo! To wish I had one handheld. Can anyone? You want a hammer if you want. We need to take a hammer, yes. Okay. So we need to start. Can you please be seated? Okay, so we start. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we start. Hold on. So welcome to this afternoon session. I hope you had a nice lunch. Can you hear me in the microphones? Yes? Yes. Okay, I know we have a few new people who just came for the afternoon. So for those of you that are new, I want to wish you welcome to this meeting. We have had an active morning and we're going to have an active afternoon as well. So clear rules, no food and drinks. Use this one to hear and take off your phone, and that's about it. Now we are going to talk about this afternoon in this first segment together, new ways of working and how new ways of working impact all of us and what's happening in the organizations and how can we work in a different way and everything like the technology and all the big changes we heard about this morning is obviously also impacting on our organization. And organizations are impacting on the outside. So how are we running organizations in a time of uncertainty, diversity and inclusion important, wellness, resilience, vulnerability, joy? You know, how do we do it all? And we're going to hear from some amazing experts who are on a daily basis running organizations, educational organizations, business schools, businesses, startups, and yeah, businesses. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And we will start with Anne-Valérie Corbos. She is the Dean and the Professor of Executive Education at the HEC in Paris. And she is a best-selling business author and an experienced faculty member. Her areas of expertise include strategy, innovation, especially social innovation, and corporate entrepreneurship. She's lived and worked in Europe, in South America, and Middle East, the US, and Asia. And over her career, Anne-Valérie has co-authored several books and articles and published in multiple languages. And at the moment, she's working on a book on women leadership, and she's also taught in many, many business schools. And it's a pleasure to have you here, Anne-Valérie. And I wish you the best. And here's the floor to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? It's an honor to be here. I was giving a talk on women in leadership a couple of months ago at a bank, and the women at this bank were saying, actually, nothing's changed. And I had one of these moments of despair where I was like, no, things have changed. The needle has moved. Right? And the proof of that is 3 weeks ago, I was in a recruitment talk for a young faculty member who was going to join us in the accounting school. And I said to him, how's the job search going? And he was like, it's terrible. I'm being discriminated against. They only want women. And I stopped and I just looked at him and I was waiting for the penny to drop. It didn't drop. So I moved on and made a couple of notes on my recruitment binder. And I thought, interesting. Have you just thought about who you were talking to and who your audience is? But never mind, that's just the proof that the needle has moved. So Christine today asked me to talk about new models of leadership and what are we seeing in the leadership space. And I'd like to say nothing new. Because if you've been in this space as long as I have been, everything that is authentic leadership, servant leadership, I don't know if you remember those words from the 80s, all the books, Greenleaf and so on, it's just come back. We kind of forgot it. And you know, some of these trends are a bit like the lollipop flavor, right? They come back and they go and they come back. So nothing much, but a couple of significant things have happened in the past 3 years. First, women were particularly strong leaders during COVID. So all the data, yes, kudos to you. All the data coming out of that period showed that they outperformed men on 84% of the competencies measured. And this was a study done on 60,000 employees. It's not a small database. Overall, they were better at communication. And I don't know if you remember this thing, women talk too much, right? Communication, they were very good at inspiring. And they were very good at collaborating. Now, part of that, unfortunately, also has its source in the imposter syndrome. Because women think they're not as good as they are, they tend to staff their teams better. They work with their teams more, and therefore they collaborate more because they're trying to compensate for perceived weaknesses in their qualities and their leadership styles. Why does this matter? Because as we've seen with post-COVID, with the Me Too movement and so on, the organization of tomorrow is a lot more empathetic. It is more purpose-led. It is more aligned with leadership qualities that are typically associated with women. Now, to be honest, what matters to me is whether you're an efficient leader or not whether you're a man or a woman. And sometimes I get bogged down in that debate, right? I just want us to be great leaders and recognized as such. And it so happens that our qualities correlate today with what the world is looking for. So that's why that matters. If you look at the organization of tomorrow, it's built on trust. My 18-year-old, when he was 18, he's 23 now, my 18-year-old said to me once, Mom, I want to be a journalist. I said, okay, so why do you want to be a journalist? He's studying journalism now, so he hasn't changed, right? And he said, well, because my generation grew up on fake news and it's about time we told the truth. It's like, oh, truth is a very big concept, right? So good luck on that journey. But I think there is really that pursuit of authenticity, of truth. One of the beautiful things with COVID is we actually saw people's homes, right? The cat walked across the screen. The kids were screaming in the background. Some people had art collections, whatever. But we brought closer the private and the professional. And I think that's that first step in that journey that we're all taking towards these more empathetic human organizations. And it enables everything else. Trust enables speed. Trust enables flexibility. Trust enables imagination, experimentation, failure, trial and error. Trust enables human centricity, right? All of these things that we need to be competitive in the future. So I guess a short answer to your short question is there is no new model of leadership. There is a reinforcement and a recognition of a certain type of leadership that is very feminine in its attributes, and which is very well aligned with what we're looking for today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah. I want to then ask you also a little bit more, because there is a lot of talk now on purpose-led businesses, as you say, and how can one that is not using those terms, let's say, or not in that, what's the best advice to get to that?
So that's a very broad question. I think every organization was founded originally with a purpose. Right? So sometimes it's just going back to what was your purpose? Why did you join that company? Why did you launch that company? And how do you create commitment instead of compliance? So it's really about how do I bring people along a journey? And that's why that inspiration piece that is very strong in women is important. Because I think we've always been purpose-led individuals. And sometimes these purposes were positive, sometimes they were negative, but we are definitely purpose-led. So it's about, does your purpose in life align with that of the organization that you're joining.
Yeah, this is very interesting. How do we align? I don't know if I'm hearing. Also, we were talking about how everything is interconnected now. We have like this, everything sort of seemed to be interconnected, and we need to look at things also from those perspective of ecosystem and so on. How can one also train to be like that, given you are a dean also of executive education and business school?
So I think everything that is mega trends, everything that is keeping our eyes open on the horizon is a lot more possible today because we have access to it on our phones. It's about the quality of what we read, our open-mindedness, because with that breadth of information comes also the desire to filter and read only what we want to read. So I think one of the privileges of being in academia is we're always confronted to young people who challenge us, who push us away from our comfort zones. So if you can engage, one, for example, indication, and you can all think about this, of creativity, and therefore understanding those weak signals, is whether you have groups of friends that you cannot invite to the same dinner at your house. Right? Because that says whether you engage with very different individuals. Right?
Thank you so much. That was, yeah. Yeah, and we are trying even at this conference to put a lot of different people together, and I want to thank everybody for being open. So anyway, so our next speaker is Kristina Orsic, and she is the Deputy Director and Head of Executive Education at GENEVA Center of Security Policy, which is an international foundation with a mission to promote peace, security, and international cooperation through executive education and diplomatic dialogue and policy. So she is responsible for defining strategy and also educational activities. Prior to joining this group, she was also working and leading organizations in the public and private sector. She is also a coach, and she's lived and worked in 13 countries, and Kristina speaks 8 languages. So I think that is a big thing. And she's very passionate about empowering leaders to grow and making the world a more peaceful place. Kristina, share with us some thought about your new way of leading and working in this organization, please.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really delighted to be joining you today. And I relate to many of the things that Anne-Valerie has mentioned. And it's really interesting because in the world that I live in, international security, I think that a lot of the things do need to be changed when it comes to leadership, because elements like servant leadership have not arrived and landed there. And I think that the role of women will also play a key role in changing the world in this way, in this area. I think I haven't. Yeah, it is. Is it? Okay. I think that one of the things to also keep in mind is, for example, I'm a female deputy director, and the first few months I spent at the center, I saw that many of my colleagues, which a lot of them were at the time men and were experts in different areas. Some were diplomats, some were people from the military, others from international organizations. They were not quite sure what to do with me. And so I know that they didn't know how to address me. Even the military were very, very, nervous. So it took really some months for them to see that actually it's not a problem to report to a civilian, and that actually we can all learn from one another. And I think that this was really one of the key elements where we could role model different types of leadership within the organization to bring people on board that there are different ways of leading, and that so my predecessor, we had a different style of leadership. It doesn't mean that we always have to stay the same. And I think that in the world that absolutely has challenges and opportunities that are very complex, interconnected. But we also face a situation of polycrisis. It's not longer one crisis after the other. We have to handle so many crises at the same time. And the speed of change is also bigger than it was, even some decades ago. I think that especially in the area of international security and also the diplomatic arena, there is a leadership crisis. And I think there is different aspects of leadership that we need to learn again, others that we maybe need to unlearn. And there's also certain things that need to be rethought in a more fundamental way. And when you look at what's happening currently in international security with the deterioration of major power relations that threaten what we have really built up over the last decades in multilateral cooperation, but also this increase of interest rate wars and regional conflicts, the speed of light of the development of emerging technology that impact the way wars are addressed and fought, but also the challenges that the UN has with facing many of these normative agendas that they had, just like, for example, also the Women, Peace and Security agenda, that is now seeing and facing pushback again from certain countries such as Russia and China, but these are not the only one, really makes me think that we still have a lot of way to go, so that we don't go back into giving up some of the progressive thinking that we've had. And how does GCSP contribute to it? The GCSP was created in the middle of the Cold War, working with mainly diplomats and people from the military, in making them experts in so that they can participate in these disarmament talks after the Geneva summit in 1985. But over the years, it really has to evolve and be really much more inclusive. Inclusive in many different ways. It's not just looking at disarmament, but looking at all other aspects of international security, like human security, also peace building, peace operations. So it's a much more holistic approach. The other thing also to be in terms of more inclusivity would be the different stakeholders. So making sure that we don't have military and diplomats just be the only one leading it, but really have this inclusive approach, including civil society, where women are highly represented, international organizations, NGOs, and more the private sector. And I think the focus now in the last few years has really been very much to also increase the participation of women, not just in international peace processes, but in international security overall. And I think that it's been the way that GCSP operated very much in this more diplomatic way, also of doing everything face to face, was a way that something that blocked bringing more women to our courses, to our offerings. And I think that COVID, with the many difficulties it's brought to us, was also a breakthrough moment, because what we had to do very quickly is to put all our offerings in a virtual format. And although I had huge resistance also internally, because, so to speak, we cannot teach our content, in a virtual space. You need to have the interpersonal relationship. What we have found out that it really increased our impact and inclusivity in a way that I didn't even myself think was possible, because all of a sudden we had a huge participation of women, of participants from the Global South, and of people in conflict zones that could not even leave their countries. So it's in terms of impact, in terms of changing the world in the way that Kofi Annan also said that education is, simply speaking, peace building by another name, is really something that I think is really important for the future of peace in the world. And women play a really key role. So when we now started, some of the courses are back face to face. One of the things that I saw is that the participation of women and participation of the Global South went back to pre-COVID percentages. So I thought, okay, this cannot happen. So again, I had to really push and work against resistance, and have now made changes in such a way that we get the best of both worlds, that we get from the virtual and the face-to-face. And I've so therefore adapted the courses to have more blended approach, really allowing women to participate even in 2 months long courses, in 8 months long courses, which is quite difficult if you have to leave your home, your caring roles for such a long time. So bringing this virtual component to it so that they can come to Geneva for a certain period of time, but also attend this course has really made a huge difference. And we've reached in certain courses up to 64% of female participation. And I think that this is what we have to continue, because women are really very present on levels. Maybe we don't see them on peace negotiation tables and peace talks, but they play a key role in the civil society and in what we call track 2, which is more the expert level that feeds into the more official one. And it's really important to give them access and give them a voice. I think that through education and through institutions like the GCSP, where we bring everyone together, and where we really are, we're also IGC champions. So we do not attend panels where there are no women. It's more difficult to find them, but we can do that. You just need to look for it. And I think that with the leadership of more women, we can also have a bigger impact in making a more peaceful world.
Thank you. It's so interesting to hear Christina talk about several interesting things, such as, okay, the crisis, you innovated. So in fact, because of the crisis, you came up with new solutions. And because of those solutions, you got more women attending the courses, more people from vulnerable areas of the world also. And but it needed some extra effort. We talked about this before in the morning, also extra effort. Nothing, you need to go also often against the resistance that's coming. And perhaps you can share a little bit more about resistance to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that, and I can very much relate to your introductory remarks. You know, there in peace and security, there are a lot of men, and we need men and women. But I think it's an area where many men now feel threatened. So I've really heard that so often as well. You know, I mean, you know, we feel discriminated against, and I think that this is one of the blockages of resilience that I had to overcome. The other one also is that it's a lot is done always face to face. So the whole technology and all of this, I think, was also another element of resistance. So I think as a leader, what was really important is to really have a strong vision, that you have the courage and you knew where you wanted to go. And, you know, one of the things that I think was a turning point in my organization, what I said, you know, let's do it. I know we can do it. It's just, and if everything goes bad, it's my fault. If everything goes well, we will have done it together. And I think this really took a lot of pressure away from others. And so they tried. But then when when people could have face-to-face again, I saw the next resistance also from the participants to say, okay, let's go back to before. But you need to continue, have the narrative. And I think this is how you make the change.
Thank you. So strong vision, courage, and continue the narrative, not just stop it, right? And it reminds me about one Lorella Sanardo, who's been a speaker here before, always shared that if you don't have resistance, if you don't have critique, you're probably not changing anything. Because so if you want to be a change maker and everybody likes you and everybody agrees with you, you probably are not changing anything. Okay, thank you, Christina. Okay, I'd like now to introduce. Thank you. It's amazing, all these experiences also that you have. Our next speaker is Melody Nakle. And Melody, she's the managing director of Amway for ECEN. That's a lot of areas: Europe, Southern Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. very also distant and far away. I can imagine you were happy with some online working. But my mission is, she says, to lead at the intersection of culture and operations. And she provides strategic and transformational leadership for 33 markets by leading the mission of the organization and helping entrepreneurs building communities that empower their customers to live healthier across a region. She has been living and working in Lebanon, the US, Japan, and Europe, and been in many different countries, has enriched her life. So I am now ready to give Melody the floor, please.
Thank you, Christine. And this, oh, I'll wait a second. It's okay. It's okay?
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Christine, for having me here with all of you. It's such an honor to be with such a impressive panel. So I'm here representing what we do in Amway, and we really focus on building and helping people live better, healthier lives. And I've had the pleasure throughout my career to be able to work in different companies across different geographies. And since very early in my career, I was been very passionate about the purpose of diversity and inclusion. What I'm especially excited about is gender equality, which is part now of diversity, inclusion, and equality. And that is a very important part of our mission and purpose at Amway. So if I can give you guys a picture of what Amway is all about, we have a distributor network, and across our region, we support over 1 million people, and about 70% of those people happen to be women. And if you can think about the diversity that we have in 34 markets within our scope and within my scope, I have currently Ukraine that is under war that we continue to support. And that is where empathy is so essential. And I think you spoke about that, right? Women leadership in moments of crisis and what we can do to really support communities in need, and especially women in those moments of need when husbands are being called to war and they need economic support and they need to be continuing to provide value and provide hope for their families. And I want to underline the word hope, because that is something that we do on a daily basis in supporting women across our geography. So that's an ongoing thing that we do. In addition, we had the earthquake in Turkey earlier on this year. And we also had to step in and not just support and helping people get the wonderful products that we have that help them be strong and healthy, but also help those entrepreneurs not lose purpose and hope as they saw hundreds of thousands of people impacted by the war, by the instability of the current government and the situation that they're facing. And then beyond that, we have wonderful entrepreneurs across all of our markets that are looking for a better life. And we have wonderful products that really bring that purpose to life. We are the leader in health and nutrition when it comes to supplements. Our brand is going to be celebrating 90 years. And from its inception, it's been always about development of sustainable farming practices. So we talk about development of the seed, planting the seed, to the product that you have in your table, fully being sustainable in its development and its manufacturing. And you can actually go to our websites and see at every step of the manufacturing process where those ingredients have come from, and they're all from sustainable sources. We use the power of ladybugs, of the worms, to really continue to generate healthy and nourished products, ingredients that help us develop the best products in the world. And so at the core, Amway is about people and helping people succeed, and most importantly, helping women find their voice and purpose, and helping them find a sense of achievement that they sometimes struggle to find across the world. What I've been privileged to experience is the confidence that our business opportunity offers so many women around the world. And I think as an executive, that's where I see the biggest challenge with women, is believing in themselves that they can do more and greater things, right? And I think that in all of us, sometimes we can reflect and say, Sometimes it's hard for us to have that confidence that we can do more because we always want to be perfect. There's that syndrome that you were talking about, right? That imposter syndrome. We don't believe that we deserve to be at the table. And as a leader, one of my goals is to give women that hope, to give that purpose, and to stand on the shoulders of so many others that have paved the way for us to get to where we're at. So I think that I wanted to show a video of what we do from a sustainability perspective, because I think it also showcases the diversity of our company and how we develop our products, how we go to market, and the business opportunity that we serve for so many people around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. What if a passion for nature and concern for the planet was more than a modern initiative? What if it was simply part of who you've been all along? At Amway, we've been practicing sustainability since before it was a household word. Look back on our history and you'll see. Our founders were conscious of it since the beginning. It's a commitment that has helped to shape who we are today and one that inspires who we will become tomorrow. Which is why we're always asking, what if we could make our impact even greater? What if we could give back to farming through regenerative agriculture, by healing the land and returning nutrients to the soil, by conserving clean water and innovating more efficient forms of irrigation, and by ensuring that farmers are not just employed, but empowered? What if every step could be traceable, transparent through every stage of production? From the research to discover new benefits and ensure the quality of our plants, to the formulation of products which are mindful of their impact. Created in facilities that incorporate renewable and innovative sources of energy. What if environmentally conscious programs were the standard and manufacturing was focused on reducing waste, recycling, and reusing materials, with sustainable intentions at each step, maintained all the way to your door? And what if all of this commitment inspired a culture of compassion and generosity across the globe, carried out by our most influential leaders? From the smallest human touchpoints that have led us here, we believe that helping people live better, healthier lives starts by making our planet better and healthier. Because at Amway, sustainability is not a new idea. It's a part of who we've been all along.
Thank you. So I think it's very interesting, your presentation, and I think for everybody working today, isn't it interesting to also see how can businesses be run in a more conscious way, how to do what we talked about, also purpose-led way, and how can business be also a force for the common good. And I think a lot of organizations are also experimenting on this now, and leaders too, because so many want to do good, and through business also those possibilities are there, and giving those work opportunities, job creation is very important. But I think this is also part of our innovation now, how to innovate new ways of doing business and doing work. It doesn't need to be an NGO, it can be a business with purpose, right? So very interesting. And I think nobody really knows how exactly, but we're all experimenting and trying. So thank you for sharing that. Impressive. And now I would like to introduce one of the several men that are speaking here today. We are not, but I token one of these now on this panel. Simone Ghibertoni. He's the CEO of La Prairie Clinique here in Switzerland. And I think it's going to be very interesting to hear what he has to say about also aging, because are we living longer or are we not? Simone, I'd like to say a little bit more about you also before I give you the word. He's the CEO of the clinic and also co-founder of Holistic Health at La Clinique Prunic. And he is driving the international development of Clinique La Prairie and its diversification strategy. And I know he's also written several books on wellness, skincare, and business strategies. And very passionate about this subject of longevity. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, really. And we had a call.
Oh, sorry.
And we had a call last week, and you told me, let's try to share a little bit what is this longevity, this word longevity. Everybody's talking about longevity. What is a longevity clinic? I'm running a clinic which started to do longevity 100 years ago almost, so probably we have been the first. And I have to tell you that I had to change my first slide because last week I received a call from United States and was a journalist who told me, Mr. Gibertoni, I need to speak with you about longevity because ChatGPT told me that I need to speak with you. And it was the first time that I heard that ChatGPT was telling somebody what to do. But in fact, I changed my first definition of what is a longevity clinic. And I asked to ChatGPT, what is a longevity clinic? And I have to tell you that the explanation has been wonderful. You will see it on the screen. When we talk about a longevity clinic, we talk about this idea of promoting optimal health, about anticipating disease, targeting the underlying cause of aging. So this is what we do, and you see it's ChatGPT. This is what we do in a longevity clinic. Is a field which is growing. Is a field which is growing very fast. There are a lot of players in different industries which are getting into this field. Why? Because even in the richest part of the population today, health is the priority, and the majority of the people, you can look at all the statistics, they feel that there is nobody which is able to take care of their health in the right way. I was telling you there are a lot of players which are getting into this market, from hotel business, from the tech company, the medical clinics, but there are very different cultural point here when we talk about longevity. It's difficult for people coming from the hotel business because, you know, in the hotel, if somebody is asking you a bottle of whiskey, you have to give the bottle of whiskey. If you are in the longevity clinic, you cannot do it. In food business, everybody is talking about the people working in the food business, longevity, but we know that the problem is that we have too much food in the Western countries, not enough food. Same for the big tech. We need a personal approach. It's not enough the digital part. And the medical clinics, in the traditional hospital, we are used to cure disease, not to do what is called functional medicine or preventive medicine. When we talk about longevity, we could talk a lot about longevity. Let me give you just six points which are crucial when we talk about what is longevity, and the point that I'm sure that you are also discussing a lot. First of all, we are not focusing anymore on the disease. We are focusing on the person. When you go to the doctor today, you talk about the disease. They rarely look at you as a person. This is what we do when we talk about longevity. The second point is that we focus on what is called slow disease, chronic disease, and not of fast disease. Very important, this idea of taking care of chronic disease. We move from the intervention to the diagnostic of the intervention. So what's happening before there is the disease? We give priority to health span instead of lifespan. So it means that we want to live longer, yes, but we want to live an healthy life for longer time. And then we don't focus on tactics, but we focus on motivation and goals. What does it mean? You all know what you should do, that you should eat more veggies, that you should move more, but why we are not doing it? I always say, we were just sharing before, talking about yoga and transcendental meditation. If you look at all the studies that Harvard did on transcendental meditation, there are over 600 studies. I always say that people would pay millions to get the pills which is giving you the benefit of transcendental meditation. But unfortunately, it takes 20 minutes twice a day. So very few people are doing it. It's very fun, you know? And the last point, which is also probably the most important, is that today longevity and medicine in general is becoming very, very personalized. You heard the word about genetic, epigenetic, pharmacogenetic. So this idea that we can be very personalized in the intervention that we do. We don't have time to go into the new trend of longevity, but if you have time, take notes about these 12 hallmarks of longevity. You can find them online. It's probably the most complete research on longevity that you can find, and there you will find very interesting information about longevity. Are we going in the right direction? If you read especially what American researchers are telling you, they are telling you in 5 years we are going to reach the eternal life. Unfortunately, my friend, we are not going in this direction at all. United States are decreasing the average length of life, not increasing, and it's the 3rd year in a row that United States is decreasing this. You can read all the statistics. If we don't want to go to United States, we can take Europe. In Europe, half of the people over 60 years old, they have at least one chronic disease. So we are not going in the right direction. And you see there are these charts showing that if you clean the mortality rate of the top 8 infectious disease, basically the mortality rate has been the same in the last 100 years. So there is a lot to do on this, but you will be happy to see that women are living in average 5 years more than men. Our mission in our clinic is to help and inspire people to live a longer, healthier, and better life. So at the end, it's we were talking about purpose of the company. So this idea of helping people is at the core of what we have to do in the longevity clinics. And we have another belief which is very strong that, again, we will not find the magic pills. We have this idea of the 4 pillars I'm going to mention to you, because when we talk about intervention on longevity, we believe that we need to focus on the medical part, which is very important, but there is one part which is related to nutrition, which is as important as the medical part. One part which is related to well-being. There is a lot of treatment, but there is all the stress management, which, as we know, is so important. And there is the last part, which is focus on movement, with, again, the point that all these therapies, all this technique now can be very much customized on you. Now we are building a lot of clinics, a lot of centers, and we want to represent physically these 4 pillars, because we want people to always remind that if they want to live longer, they need to focus on these 4 points together. Now, you also asked me it's a company which is 100 years old. What are you doing? What you felt it? When I came, there was only one place, by the way, not far from here, which is Montreux. But I immediately said, people are coming to our place for 1 week. And I said, it's not enough. We need to change the life of the people for the longer term. And so there were a few questions that I wanted to answer. How can I be with my client wherever they are, every day? How can I deliver real efficacy to them using the best tool? And there was this idea, first of all, for our client, really, how can we move from short-term result to long-term result? This was the key objective of our strategy when we redesigned the strategy of the company. And then, can we build a vision which is not a vision on 3 years, on the next 3 years, but which is a vision on the next 15 years? And we drafted a vision that we call Vision 2040, which is what is going to be with us for the next 15 years. So this idea of really having a long-term objective for the company. We don't have time to go through this, but we build this ecosystem, putting at the center the client, building physical places. We are building now other clinics. We are building what we call Longevity Hub, which are centered in all the cities where we can follow up our client. We call it strategic vertical, so it's the first one on the left. Then products that we can give to our clients. Then this idea of innovation. people in longevity, people that come to the clinics in general, they want result. At the end, we have the responsibility to deliver result. And then at the end, technology, which is still very important. Some of you have a watch or an Apple Watch or some other devices. It's true, technology, if it's inserted inside this ecosystem, can help us to change the behavior, which is what we want at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting when you were talking about living longer, right? And then you also have the same approach to how to run the organization. Because sometimes these days it's also fast. A business start, it closes again, a new one, change job, change this, change that. But how to also stick with something for that long and still innovate and renew. Can you share some thoughts about renewing oneself or the approach to work also when you stay in the same organization? Have you thought of that?
Sure. I think, first of all, there is this concept of infinite game, which I like very much in companies. Now, this idea that is not a finite game, but we should always strive to keep the company successful as long as possible. And if you ask me, it's also very much related to innovation, but I think the key for all of us running a company or doing whatever other activity should be to wake up every morning and ask ourselves what I can do better today. What is just one small thing that I can do better every day? And if we apply this principle to the company, how can I do better with my clients today? Again, a small 0.1% compound every year can make huge result and can really change in a very short term the company and giving sustainability to the company. So this would be the first suggestion that I would give.
That's great. Thank you. So what can I do better today? Wonderful. Thank you so much, Simone. Warm up. Thank you. So we are gonna move to our next speaker, that's Mine Uran. And Mine, she's the founder and the CEO of a company called Alver. And she has for more than 20 years been searching for the perfect alternative to animal protein. She's a food engineer and she's led teams at Unilever and then DuPont, amongst others. And finally, she became head of the protein at Nestle. As a global recognized protein expert, though, her initial focus was on plant proteins, those of soya and peas. However, then she started to continuously research and she found the algae. And I would like to give Mine the floor to share more about how this was developed and her thoughts for the future. Please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Every company has a purpose. So we started also with a purpose to bring to the world the most sustainable and healthy product, protein to the world. Why is actually most sustainable? Today, we know about climate change. So sustainability, we need to take really seriously. Last summer, it was hot, no? The summer before was also hot, no? The summer before was also hot, yeah? When we had in 2002, so roughly 20 years ago, one hot summer, we were all shocked. You know, how can this be in 2002, such a hot summer? And now we are just okay with it. We are used to it. Do you know what the changes already which changes are already happening in our ecosystem? For example, did you know that malaria is increasing due to hot weather in the world? Do you know actually also that overall food insecurity is increasing? It is in my slide. I don't know when I'm going to get this slide, but food security is also increasing. Insecurity, there are statistics showing more and more people are hungry because of the heat. The next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the first one. Can I go one? Yes. So in this one, the first one shows, this statistic shows the food insecurity increasing. My God, why is food insecurity increasing? We are having GMO products anyway, so worldwide. So it's just because of the heat. The second one is, as I said, it's just very sorry, dengue and malaria is increasing. Okay, this is really increasing. You can see that over the years, and this is because of the heat. And the third thing, which is actually happening, is all the infections are increasing as well. So we are already seeing actually a change in our health. One of the most important CO2 contributors in the world is, next slide, please, is actually food. Roughly 30% of CO2 emission comes from agriculture activities. So if we look at the protein, let's only look at the 3 numbers. You don't need to see all these other numbers, but beef protein uses 52 kilogram, uses 52 kilogram of CO2 for 1 kilogram of beef protein. Soy protein, which is actually a much better solution, of course, is actually at 20 kilogram, yeah? But our protein is just only 1.3 kilogram. So it is actually 50 times less. So it is, this is why our purpose was really to bring the most sustainable protein to the world. And we have worked for it. 5 years ago, we have brought golden chlorella. And in the next slide, you will see our new invention, which is the diamond chlorella, because the color is now white. It has 35% protein, and naturally all the vitamins and healthy lipids, in addition iron, zinc, folate, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. In the next slide, we can see the benefits of diamond chlorella. We have information about that it boosts our immune system, it supports bone health, helps improve basic body functions, it is gentle, body cleans and detox, and it helps reduce blood pressure. So this is what chlorella does. But of course, the chlorella, green chlorella, is very difficult to swallow. People take it as a pill. But normally, we also know that to compress the pill, to create a compressor, you need to add some chemicals, okay? And those chemicals are not healthy for us. So better you eat something in powder form than in tablet form. So what is the difference of diamond chlorella? It is not only the color, but we could improve to be efficient dairy alternative. So to be dairy alternative, we could actually improve the zinc, calcium, and magnesium within the diamond chlorella. The dairy alternative is so strong now. We have been speaking, we are introducing this product actually at the Vita Foods in Geneva as we speak. And for example, we have had a lot of customers, large customers, food companies and food supplements interested into this product. So I think my time is up now. I want to just thank you, everyone, because I can't talk about this product, these fantastic products longer, but during the break, we can talk more. And I hope you will enjoy.
Thank you, Mina. One thing Mina didn't say, or I didn't say, one of the things when she was in the big organizations and she wanted to do some changes with this new protein, she wasn't heard, she wasn't listened to, it was too slow. So she took that and started her own organization, which is also very courageous. So sometimes that's the way when you work in big places and it's too slow. Well, start your own, do your own. And of course, I know it's not easy and it's possible, right? Yes. Yeah, so thank you. So on this note, I want to thank all our speakers, panelists here today. It's very interesting to hear a lot about purpose-led business, different way of running organizations, never waste a good crisis, live longer and do the best. What can you do better every day? And start innovating, look for new solutions, use our brains and our experience to do business and do good at the same time. And whether it's a business or if it's the Geneva Center for Security, we don't want to waste resources. So big applause to all of you. Yeah. Fine. So now we have a little exercise, and again, I would like you to group with your newly found friends or those you already know, and we are going to do a little conversation again. So talk to 2-3 people around you, and we are going to have a slide with the exercise. I hope, because I cannot remember what we decided. But basically, if you're talking to somebody new, always say who you are, what you do, something you're passionate about. And today, let's talk about, yeah, here we are. There it is, yeah. And also, we want to talk about inclusion. We want to talk about big inclusion. We heard today that trust is important and we feel good. So do what is here. Nobody heard. Nobody heard. Ladies and gentlemen. I think I need to. So we need to start. Okay, so on with the earplug so we can get going here. But it's good. It's very good to see how the conversations are flowing and everyone is finding some new contacts and new friends and building bridges and exchanging notes and seeing old friends and contacts again also. This is also what this is all about as well. So we are meeting for this session here now this afternoon, looking at creating impact. Because how can we expand and our power really? Because what if after years and years and years of empowering women, the empowered women can go out and make change and continue to empower other women, children, youth, and men along with us, of course. So today we're going to hear some stories from women who are dedicating their lives to empower others. And we also want to hear how we can create change in a way that creates harmony. So we will start with Ellie, Maria Elfriede Pradervan, Ellie as she's popularly called, and she is the founder and the CEO of the Women World Summit Foundation, a Swiss non-profit foundation, an international NGO that also has the UN consultative status. This organization is serving the advancement of women and children's rights and the UN Sustainable Development Agenda. She's Swiss, she's educated in Germany, Switzerland, and the United States. So I look forward to hearing more from you directly. So let's give Ellie the floor and a warm applause.
How do I get it on? Okay, how do I get it? Okay, well, thank you very much and good afternoon to everybody. And I have the pleasure of sharing with you a new campaign that might surprise you because you probably have not heard about it yet. It is the 75% campaign, which tells the world that that women, children, and youth together represent 75% of the world population. That is 6 billion of us out of 8 billion people total population in the world. So 6 billion of us, imagine the power we have. So 75% of the world population represent the largest constituency in the world, with little or no say in decision-making processes, in co-designing our economic, social, and political environment we live in. The time has come for the recognition of civil society's contributions in the form of goodwill, generosity, creativity, services, volunteering, aid, skills, care, talents, all we give, new ideas for our lived experiences and deep aspiration to achieve harmony and lasting peace in this beautiful planet. We are expecting from our current world leaders to change course so that our children and grandchildren will not inherit the unstable and dangerous world we live in today. I'd like to begin because it is a very, very recent progress report by the UN Secretary General, published only a few days ago. And I selected a few messages which are needed for us to understand what we're going to say at the end. And I begin where Mr. Guterres addresses the presidents of the world leaders. And he says, halfway to the deadline for the 2030 agenda, we are leaving more than half of the world behind. We have stalled or gone into reverse on more than 30% of the SDGs. The number of people living in extreme poverty today is higher than it was 4 years ago. Hunger is increased and is back to 2005 levels. Gender equality is some 300 years away, predicts the World Economic Forum. And we heard it today from the Director General of the UN as well. Just 26 people have the same wealth as half of the world's population. Many developing countries cannot invest in the SDGs because they face financing black holes, and many are buried under a mountain of debt. Flows of official development assistance are far below the long-standing commitment of 0.7 of the GDP, which was promised more than 30 years ago. But there is not one country that actually delivers. Something is fundamentally wrong with the rules and governance of a system that produces such outcome. Climate finance is also far below commitments. Developed countries have still not delivered the 100 billion that was promised annually since 2020. The agreement reached in 2015 in New York, Addis, and Paris stand for peace and prosperity, people and planet. That promise is now in peril. The UN Secretary General states, and I quote, "The litany of lost opportunities has many causes. Chief among them is the fundamental inequality and injustice in international relations that run from global institutions, excuse me, including the UN, through the international financial architecture to private banks and credit ratings agencies. These institutions reflect the global reality of 78 years ago. They are out of date. They are out of time." End of his quote. And I recommend that you look up his entire list of what he reproaches to our leadership that is running the world in which we find ourselves in today. So where do we go from here? More women and youth in leadership are needed who demand delivery of the unfinished business of too many promises made. To mention a few, the 1995 Beijing Platform for Women, almost 30 years ago, I was there. And I've never seen 30,000 women enjoy because all the governments collectively agreed to the platform of action, and very little we can see today. So, where am I? There's also the urgent environment interventions, ending too many wars and confrontations, and ending the weapon industry, which not only impoverishes us, but it will kill us all if we don't stop it. But last but not least, the urgent delivery of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. With such a testimony, where do we go from here? So we have a leadership crisis. And WWF is my foundation, which I founded 31 years ago. We propose that women, children, and youth, the 6 billion of us, have a seat at the decision-making table. And how do we do that? Because it is time that women and youth belong in all places where decisions are being made. Let's take a brief look at the women of the world in general, who give birth to all humanity. And surely they deserve a seat at the decision-making tables. There is no indication in nature that women should be restricted to her home only. Verily, she is the mother and the custodian of the world. Hence, there is no single domain of life where men should rule alone. It is this discrimination of one element that has created the many gender-based problems, including violence against women and everything else. Creativeness is given equally to both genders, and women in leadership need to become the norm, also said by the Secretary General of the UN. Gender equality is the goal that will help abolish poverty, that will create more equal economies, fairer societies, happier men, happier women and children. No struggle can ever succeed without women participating side by side with men in leading this world. So let's have a quick look at the children of the world who have started sending world leaders postcards and letters sharing their anxieties about other children dying of hunger and in wars. They started to address the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva at the Child Rights Session last March, where the Special Representative of Violence Against Children of the UN, Mrs. Najat Mala, she said, the urgency of ending violence against children had not diminished since she last addressed the Council. On the contrary, it had increased due to the impact of the pandemic and multiple humanitarian crises caused by the conflict, climate change, and natural disasters. And three, let's have a look at the youth of the world, age group 19 to 25, girls and boys, who are rising and more becoming game changers with meaningful participation at the UN and in communities. The UN ECOSOC Convention recently convened its annual Youth Forum, a platform where young people can engage in a dialogue with UN member states and others to bring forth their views and concerns, guided by the SDGs, galvanize action to transform the world into a fairer, greener, and more sustainable place. They shared recommendations and innovative ideas in preparation for the UN High-Level Political Forum in July and the SDG Summit in September. That is fantastic. So now, we can clearly see that women, children, and youth together are the way forward in transforming our world. And a global 75% movement can lead this transformation. And this is what we have started in Geneva, and we want to bring it to the world. When 75% unites and rise to create a new era for common good, it will be a force such as the world has never known. I cry when I see that. This is why we see an opportunity, an extra gift for International Geneva, to launch international Geneva leadership training forums for women and youth, to remind our current world leaders not only of their obligations, but also of their promises that they did not keep, and other priorities such as reducing the defense budgets, military interventions, climate change, and health pandemics, which sidelined the needs and rights of the people. A few words about our leadership training forums. which we were in the process of creating and designing, which will be organized in collaboration with international partnership organizations working in the field of women's and children's rights, sustainable development, as well as UN experts, educators, artists, and visionaries who empower the world to serve the common good, not the common defense budget. Building peace ministries, reducing investments in the arms industries, sharing the world's natural resources as needed, and contributing to our collective search for a new era for lasting peace and harmony. Leadership training programs will include, among other topics, to hold our leaders to account, to keep them honest, to train many women and youth to make up the difference in the statistics of co-leadership needed to achieve our common agenda, to empower the United Nations and its leadership to continue providing the world with valuable research and proposals to help change the current paradigm and to compel us all to create urgent system change. The system change is what will turn this world around. I'm almost finished. And also to remember the real meaning of the United Nations and its agenda for peace. After all, the UN was created after the Second World War, was a peace-building project with a UN charter, and I quote, "We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow and mankind." And now, 80 years later, we are back in a similar situation. So let's expand our vision and create a powerful movement, 75% of the world population, 6 billion of us, to help turn this world around for the common good, ending destruction and wars, exploitation and corruption, and unbelievable violence. Training leadership forums will contribute, together with numerous creative propositions for change, to our common search for a better global future, to ensure that our children and grandchildren have a say in the future global conversations about peace building, disarmament, respecting human rights, and investing in sustainable development. To conclude, we wish to inform you that we are planning a second Zoom event, 75% conference at the end of the year, and our plan to develop with our partners the 2024 Leadership Training Program and our planned attendance at the UN Summit for the Future, which will be a game changer, and our planned attendance at the Summit of the Future in 2024. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ellie, for sharing. And as she said, something is actually fundamentally wrong and out of date, out of time. And how are we letting it happen? I just started to wonder even about that. How are we letting it happen? It's not about hearing the voices about the children and the youth. I will say we also need to listen to the ladies in their 80s. Thank you, Ellie. Wow. So that was great. And it's going to be more great because now we are hearing from Night Muteti. She is from Kenya and she's the head of Daughters of Kenya and she's also the executive partner of WIN in Kenya. She is an amazing lady who is bringing about great change through Daughters of Kenya, where she's moving and working for vulnerable girls and the young mothers in Kenya. She's a Ashoka Fellow and change maker. She's done a lot of different things. She has now also her MBA and traveling, doing change in Kenya and abroad in many different conferences. And please share.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christine. Sorry. Press there. Yeah. So, is it okay? Well, Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you for this forum. I'm really excited to be in Switzerland for the first time to come and share my story. And I'm here to talk about where Daughters of Kenya is coming from and where we are at the moment. My background is social work. I did BA in social. I need BA in social work because my parents saw that it was necessary for me to change the community. My dad was a human rights defender as well as a mayor, a politician, and I liked what he did. And so I think I carried it away with me, and I said, this is what I want. I grew up in Eastern Kenya in the village, and I could see what women and girls were going through, and that's how I started it just grew in me. One day I would like to start an organization. So later in life, after I finished my first degree, I worked for an organization called the Caucus for Women Leadership in Kenya. And while I was there, I was trying to see how can I start my own. I am grateful for my employers. They really believed in me and they supported me when I started looking out to start my own organization. And that was around the same time I wrote to WIN. I was looking for leadership organizations that nurture authentic leadership, and that's how I connected with WIN and Christine. That was way back 2014, and later I established Daughters of Kenya, and it was registered in 2017. And from there, the rest is history. I'm here to share a testimonial, more of what we've been able to achieve in the few years. Yeah, and I'm happy to meet her because our organization has been writing to us, but I didn't know her. I've never met her in person. We even received an email last week from our organization. So, so let me just say the story of Daughters of Kenya. Well, so what is Daughters of Kenya? Daughters of Kenya is a national trust organization, and our work is to change, to improve and change the lives of the vulnerable girls and young mothers in Kenya. Yeah, and I am the founder and currently the executive director. So before I even proceed, I'll talk about WIN because it's in WIN where I've been able to find development and strategic partners who have really supported our work, and we've been able to move. We've been able to host two WIN conferences in Kenya. That is WIN 2022 and WIN 2023. These WIN conferences bring along organization leaders, both from the corporate and from the NGO world, who have interest of supporting the women. And this, you can see in the pictures what we've been able to do. I just shared a few photos, but yeah, when you go to, okay, you can see what we do in our pages. Next. So our vision is a society where vulnerable girls and young mothers are empowered and able to realize their full potential. And our mission is to create sustainable goals and models that empower, educate, and rescue the vulnerable girls and women, because we believe that women are catalysts of change. Next. So we work within 5 strategic programs: education, sustainable livelihood, that is economic empowerment, sexual reproductive health and rights, anti-violence against girls and women, and recently we just started the leadership development because that is key in WIN, and I found many partners who have helped us to be able even to bring this leadership in Kenya. Thank you. Next. So in education, what we do, we've partnered with Kenya Institute of Social Work and Community Development, where we've sponsored some of our young women, and now they are working in different departments. Well, we also do a lot of mentorship and life skills. We bring successful women leaders and also others to come and mentor and talk to young women. And as you can see in that picture, last year, we actually launched the SDG book for children, and this book was done by one Dr. Mara Avi. I met her in WIN 2018, and she had done a book. The book is called A Smart Way to Start Doing Good for Children here in Switzerland, and the book is endorsed by the UN Director General Tatian. When I saw the book, it really excited me, and I said, why don't I bring this to Kenya? So in Kenya, we partnered with SDG Kenya Forum and also Sustainable Development Solutions Network, that is the university's, forum, and we are able to launch the book in Kenya last year. We illustrated it into African setup, and also we were able to, illustration and also translating it into Swahili. The good thing is that so far, 600 children have been able to get the books, and we have been able to establish 4 school-based SDG clubs in Nairobi. Our dream for this book is to spare and reach to all the children, even in the grassroots of Kenya. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's
Okay.
more slide. Oh, let's have.
I can see.
Maybe it's no more slide. No, it's finished, I think. Was there more slide? Was there one more slide? Maybe there's one slide.
Well, there's a picture showing the launch of the book. Yeah. We launched the book at the University of, next please. Yes, that picture. This is us launching the book at the University of Nairobi. Dr. Mara came all the way from Switzerland. And this one was one thing that meant the government and everyone to see what we are doing with children in Kenya. Next, please. Yes, we also believe in SDG 8, that is, sustainable livelihoods. Away from even getting funding from donors, we believe in our own. We believe that we can empower the most vulnerable. As you can see, those girls here, we train them. We get these girls from other grassroots organizations who are working like in the slums. We train them absolutely for free. Currently, we are training 20 young women, and they are able to make bags, and they are able to make even clothing. We have tutors who are actually accredited by the National Institution of Training Authority, NITA. Yeah, and as you can see, the clothing I'm wearing is from that. And we are able to market not only in Kenya. In July, our products are going to Jordan. Yeah, yeah. Next. Okay. Okay, we do, in the same programs, we do make the reusable pads, and you can see those are very vulnerable young women from the rural Kenya, whom we supply also. When we make them from our workshops, we are able to supply them. Those ones are from northern West Pokot in northern Kenya. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, we believe in anti-violence and against girls, and we work with the government, the local administration. Yeah. So the last one is that, she's very slow.
Last one.
Yeah, leadership development. As you can see, we've now partnered with Coaching Trail, and the good thing is that now we are almost graduating the first cohort of 20 leaders. These are leaders within the corporate and the NGO. They're doing for this specific program. We've started speaking with the government and the corporates. Now, this is more of a social enterprise, also where we'll be able to train leaders in the government setup and also in the corporates and also in the NGO world. You can say this is the first program we are already doing in partnership with Coaching Trail. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. There are a couple of things here. I thought it was interesting also how she mentioned her dad, and I think many dads can be good with their girls. It's one way men can contribute. So, and also for me, I think it's so great to think back in 2014 that we took a bet and like, let's support Night. And through WIN, since we started WIN, even when we had nothing also, and we had as a rule, let's always make sure we bring in 3 to 5% of whatever we get in, we give away to young girls from other countries who otherwise couldn't have come. And this it bears such fruits, and this is like change. We do mentorship, we bring these women along, and look her, all the ripples from that one little thing, and we could spend the money on something else, buy a car, another jacket, instead we buy that little, look at all the things she's done. And it warms her heart. And also thank to everybody in the WIN community. I think it's a good example of what we can do, and everybody who's at WIN who contributes, think about that too. That's it's really, really important. And she's not the only one, of course, but it's a very nice. Our next speaker, which is Mino Marielle, and she is the co-founder of the Poem Foundation, and also she runs an organization called Diego Federation 100. She's an author, a visionary, an entrepreneur, a thought leader, and another polymath and with many talents. And she's worked extensively over the year, reaching more than 258 global leaders and innovators and visionaries as part of an EU and UK government-funded 6-year study on what it takes to be an inspired leader. Her vision is to reawaken human beings and humanity to dignity, restoring dignity and enriching lives with her passionately crafted spiritual interwoven business mentoring and life coaching. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Yes. Thank you, Kristen. And I feel so humbled and so privileged to actually be here with all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and the stand that you've taken and the talks that we had. And Kristen, your amazing ability to convene such a gathering of, I call them solutionaries coming from resolve about some of the world's biggest pressing problems and issues. So great privilege to be here. I'd love to just begin very quickly with my story and then go into the whole inspired leadership part. My born, brought up in India, my background became a corporate background, worked for most of my adult life in the UK, and then went through a series of situations where, we had the 208 dip and then we started coming out and nothing made any sense. I just felt like, okay, here we go again, So I was like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? So every time my businesses would succeed, there would be like a dip in my heart, and because I could see that the world was getting to a point where it was time for a new business model. And that is what was called. I went through a health crisis, went to Bali, and went through a series of spiritual awakenings, found my calling, and emerged from there. And that gave rise to the Poem Foundation, which stands for the Palace of Extraordinary Miracles. A miracle to me, that's my gig, connecting humans and humanity to the miracle that they are. Miracle being something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. Whatever happens, if your heart is beating, that is the song of the heart. It is singing. So it's a matter of connecting you to what is making that heart sing. And what I saw from engaging with that is that we are all born with choice as a modus operandi. We are born with dignity, which is an honoring of our own worthiness. And we are born with a unique ability that enables us to be a master and be at the source of our life as opposed to a victim. And it all begins with choice. Choice, we are always choosing. Even if you choose to make no choice, you are choosing that. Even if you choose to hand your choice over to a regime, to whatever it may be, whatever the circumstances may be, you are choosing that. So once you understand that, starting to become conscious and aware of the choices you're making really is, if that is a connection that I can somehow influence, that makes a huge difference. Dignity is honoring of our own worthiness. And it is from that honoring of our own worthiness, we automatically start honoring it in others. We honor it in nature. But when we don't honor our own worthiness, we give ourselves permission to destroy that in others. So a tree has value once it is chopped and becomes an asset. In the forest, it has no value. So forests are chopped, and lo and behold, everybody's impacted by this climate change crisis. And so it goes on. I also saw, as I was engaging in this whole dignity piece, that there are many changes that are occurring. And fortunately, I say fortunately because I choose to look through the miracle lens, what's making my heart sing, we've had the COVID phenomenon, that the entire world of whoever is alive here with some conscious awareness, we have experienced it. Good, bad, ugly, beautiful. It was something that really we could never have predicted before. That in itself reawakens cellular memories of uncertainty is certain, unknown is the known, change is constant, take nothing for granted is the modus operandi. There's a switch from survival instinct now to thriving instinct. There's a switch from just sustainable dialogue to one which is regenerative. There's a switch from fantastic results in business to what I call as extraordinary results. And extraordinary results, what I mean by that is three things. It's a combination of unprecedented performance, operational excellence, and transforming quality of life for yourself as the leader, for your stakeholders, which includes your family, and for the planet itself. And we as women, we really do operate from that extraordinary results framework, whether we do it consciously or we don't do it consciously. I mean, think about it, in terms of how you're juggling home, family, work, whatever conflicts that you may be dealing with. There is unprecedented performance that is called for from time to time, and operational excellence is a must, because otherwise, how are you going to handle all of this stuff? You may not be aware that you automatically have that propensity to create structures and systems. Quality of life, you may ignore yourself, but you certainly are making that occur for others. Now, once you understand that you have a cellular memory of being able to do that, you can give it a bit more structure, and you can then apply it anywhere and everywhere. So then I go into, okay, what makes that happen? And I realized that that is what I did in my corporate world. I had this huge study funded by the European Union and the Department of Trade and Industry to go out and study if inspired leaders could actually be born. And are they born or could they actually be developed? So I studied about 258 such leaders around the world. 54 of them only qualified as inspired leaders. And I distilled these 7 habits of inspired leaders. And I started, rolling out inspired leaders programs within corporations. Most of them were men. Now, fast forward to 2023, here we are, and I'm seeing that extraordinary results is the model. That is the business model. And it's time for me to take this the 7 habits of inspired leaders and take it out to women and youth. I mean, it's so amazing to hear you, Ellie, talk about the 75%, because, I've taken that on, that we're going to have at least 1 billion people from the Poem Foundation who will be educated in these 7 habits of inspired leadership. Because each inspired leader, they know that they have only one job to do. And their only job is to create other inspired leaders who can take failure and not give a damn and keep moving forward. We as women, we have that natural ability as mothers, as daughters, as the work that you've been doing. We just really are quite masterful at that. So now let's develop those habits, We have a short amount of time. I'm just going to share some of those habits with you. So the first thing that inspired leaders do is they learn to fire on all cylinders. They do take living an extraordinary life really importantly. So when you're thriving on all cylinders, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental, you don't become pushed in any particular direction. You create your own ways of finding your center. You're always plugged into the context of why you're doing something. And you don't allow yourself to get completely engrossed or overwhelmed just by content. And that's a very important quality of an inspired leader. The second thing that they do as a habit is they know dignity is the foundation upon which they operate. But for dignity to be the foundation of their leadership, they acknowledge and honor their own worthiness first. And they see that in everyone else. And they create practices whereby they share that, in terms of giving people feedback. The third habit is when things go wrong, as a matter of habit, they actually get quite excited about only be a breakthrough. So there's a way in which they convert breakdown into a breakthrough. The fourth habit is that it's accountability. They're all about accountability. They are not afraid to say, you can count on me for this. And they're not afraid to ask, I want to count on you for this. Accountability versus responsibility, which in fact becomes burdensome and it inhibits your ability to respond. When people take ownership of, you can count on me for this, they will do whatever it takes. After all, unknown is the known, They have the fifth habit is they create games as opposed to engaging in blame. Now, games feels very flippant, but actually think about it. Any game, The intention is very clear. How you know that you won the game or lost the game is also, the measurable is also very clear. And you don't just let anybody play the game. You recruit and re-recruit the players. And then the players go and play the game. You make sure you mentor them and you coach them. So you can imagine, as an inspired leader, they operate with that construct. Game, not blame. They have habit number 6, they have a daily practice. Large, small, whatever it is. I was so amazed, a head teacher of a school in Tyneside and an amazing entrepreneur that the world knows out there in the Bay Area. Both of them, daily practice. And some of them had similar daily practices as well. They didn't even know each other, you know? And the 7th habit is they keep their finger on the pulse. Now, the interesting thing about finger on the pulse is you need to know what is your pulse. So the difference you're talking about in Iran or Kenya or the 75%, what's that pulse? That is yours to keep your finger on. With that having been said, I just want to leave you with 3 questions to ask yourself before you just rush ahead with action. And I call them, they are like the superpower foods of how you show up as a leader. The first one is always ask, before you jump into action, is this mine to do? If it's not yours to do, don't give energy to that, because your energy can be applied somewhere else. The second question is, if I didn't have to, would I choose to do this? It's the most self-motivating way of moving forward. And the final question is, when you see something good that has taken place, however difficult a situation you may be in, I'm not one for putting the blinkers on. I'm one for acknowledging what's really going on. In amidst all of that, if there is something good that's happening, ask the question, how much better can it get? That breaks your own pattern of getting consumed into content. You can be in your center and really expand, go forth, multiply, and amplify as an inspired leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Mino. So much wisdom there. I particularly think this part of dignity, that how we can always keep honoring our own worthiness. And when we're honoring that in ourselves, we honor that in others. So thank you for that. So a big warm applause to this panel, and we need to. So as we are changing gear here, we're getting some other people on. We could 2 minutes. Yeah. I mean, you can talk with each other during this 2 minutes exchange. Rapid go. Okay, so I need your attention because we run a little bit over in the session, so we have to speed things up. So please sit down. So this session, we are actually going to continue to talk more about each and every one of us in some way. This is the session we are called Pioneering Journeys and Leaders Inspiring the Future. So how can each and every one of us pioneer the future? So we'll hear a bit more of some amazing ladies and one amazing gentleman, how they're doing this. And we're going to start with Nilima Bhatt, who is the founder and the director of Shakti Leadership. And she is a visionary in the fields of personal mastery, leadership, gender equality, and well-being. She's done a lot of work on and written 2 books on Shakti leadership, embracing feminine and masculine power, and also in business, and also My Cancer Is Me, the journey from illness to wholeness. I let her share more. The floor is yours, Nilima. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. May I have my slides? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, right. So how do we get to global harmony? My premise here that I'm going to share is we can only get to global harmony through inner harmony. I'm going to share an integral yoga and a depth psychology perspective. Warning, we are going deep, okay, really deep. I know it's a post-lunch session. You're all going to be very sleepy, but be ready to go really deep. So right after 9/11, there was a conference that the Jungians called together to say, how do we understand let me go back, sorry. I need to go back. Yeah, back. Yeah. So if I go forward, which one do I click? Here. This one. All right. Thank you. No, this. Okay. I want to be back here. Thank you. So terror, violence, and the impulse to destroy, understanding our inner nature and the origin of a psychology of violence and terror. What is it in us in the first place that makes us capable of such incredible violence as what we saw in 9/11, right? And why did I come to the inquiry for this? Do you remember 16th of December 2012, there was a horrific rape case on a bus. A young girl was brutally raped. I don't want to go into the details of it. It still makes every woman's hair stand on edge. And shortly after that, there were very many rape cases happening in India. Every day you opened the newspaper and you saw yet another horrific rape. And it was almost as if the masculine had gone mad, you know? And I said, what is this? What is it in the nature of human being that allows us to do something like this? And so I searched for the psychology of violence. And this is what I discovered, that the Jungians know this, but guess what? It goes back to many other traditions as well, that inside us, there are 4 drives. We have a body, our soma, and that has got 2 drives, eros, which is the life drive, our sexual instinct, but we also have thanatos, which is our death drive, our survival instinct. If you don't kill, you may be killed, okay? So inside our soma, our body, we are wired with this drive. It comes from our animal evolution. Then, when we became humans and we developed a mind, these 2 other drives entered that are psychic. They come from the mind. We have logos, which is our rational mind, our ability to think, but we also have mythos, which is our imaginative, creative right brain, correct? And this is also, guess what, it's not just in the Western psychological, archetype language. We also have Kama, Mara, Maya. If any of you know your Buddhism, when the Buddha sat under the tree waiting for his enlightenment, he had to fight the 3-fold fire of Kama, Mara, Maya. Death, disease, and desire. Delusion. Death, delusion, and desire. Everyone's
approaching it in the same way and trying to understand what is it that is at the heart of human nature. These are our 4 drives. So guess what? We are churned by them, whether we like it or not. We think we have a veneer of civilization, but that's just the surface. Scratch it, and underneath are these powerful drives, archetypal drives that drive us. That's why they are called drive. Okay, so what do? Here we are. We've got this, and we want to be civilized. So opposites that come together in the conjunction, either confronting one another in enmity or attracting one another in love. Jung, our wonderful, famous Swiss person from this land that we are now speaking from, he understood, and he was searching for this thing called the Mysterium Coniunctionis. He was looking for alchemy, saying, what is it that goes on? And he discovered that inside all of us, there are these opposites. They come in pairs. For everything that's true, its opposite is equally true. And typically, it comes in a quaternary way. There's 4 of them. So right here is the 4-fold self. How do we harmonize these? So our conflicting inner drives lead to our outer wars. It's as simple as that. Unless we understand and reconcile our innate human drives, we cannot create lasting global harmony. So here we are in Switzerland, in the land of Carl Gustav Jung, right? And we're talking about global harmony, women pioneering it. But let's understand at the heart is this masculine, feminine, archetypal force inside every man, woman, and child, regardless of gender, that has been seeking to get reconciled ever since humans started thinking. Okay, it's back on. So here's his book, Mysterium Coniunctionis, where he says it's an inquiry into the separation and synthesis of psychic opposites in alchemy. So the transformation of our nature into something higher, purer, and more fully divine. And he says often the polarity is arranged as a quaternio, a quaternity, with 2 opposites crossing one another. And therefore, how do we work with this? The 4-fold self is a universal symbol of well-being across many cultures. And through integral yoga, we are told about the 4-fold Shakti, right? So just as you have 4 drives that can cancel us, we also have these 4 innate powers, the divine feminine, which is in every man, woman, and child, regardless of gender. The 4-fold Shakti that are fueling the 4 archetypes of mature leaders are wisdom, which you think about it is when you take your logos and you make it conscious, you get strength, you get harmony, which is when you take your eros and you make it conscious, you get strength when you take your thanatos and you make it conscious. Your wisdom, as I said, you take your logos, make it conscious, and you take your mythos, make it conscious, and you become the perfection in matter, the embodied self. Okay, so if you notice, Jung talks about the 4 core archetypes of mature leaders. You have the sovereign or the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. Isn't it beautiful? Across all our wisdom traditions, we innately understand and know what is at the heart of making ourselves conscious and masters of our being. Okay. So how do we turn our drives into our power bases? Here are 12 conscious leadership qualities. It seems so ridiculously simple, but guess what? That's what it is. This is the divine, this is the mother, Sri Aurobindo, the founders of the integral yoga, and this is her symbol, and she puts it right out there. She says you practice these 12 qualities. You practice wisdom, let's start from the blue and go around. So sincerity, humility, gratitude. Perseverance, aspiration for your higher nature, receptivity to receive the descent of what comes once you aspire, then progress to stay the journey, stay the purpose, courage to make sure you don't give up halfway, goodness generosity, equality, and peace. So if you were a monk in a Buddhist monastery, your master would say to you, go away for 2 years and practice each of these qualities. Every 2 years, it takes you 2 years to master any one of these. Okay, so whether it's metta, loving kindness, in Buddhism, we have the 4 higher emotions, karuna, metta, upekkha, mudita, right? So here are 12 qualities that every human being, find your own yoga, find your own path, find your own practice, but can you cultivate these 12 qualities? Because if you can cultivate these, embody these, practice this towards yourself, towards others, towards nature, towards the divine, your drives will become your powers. It flips. That's the mysterium Kaniyang Shanis. Okay, so I think I will stop there. Yay! Let me stop this thing. Because that's very well on time. I was told 15 minutes, then I was told 12 minutes, then I was begged 9 minutes. Okay, let's stop there.
It's amazing. We were all surprised, you know, but that was good. And it, as you say, it's so funny. She said, it's all very simple, you know, and in a way it is. And it is so difficult anyway. So anyway, yeah, and thank you for your concise way of delivering so that we can move on. But any last thought? I'll give you one.
No, I think it's just remembering that there is no global harmony without inner harmony, one life at a time, one person at a time. That's it.
Thank you. Speaker is Françoise Pallesterman, F. Man. She's a conceptual visual artist. She's born in Brussels, and today she lives between Italy and UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and so on. And she's a graduate from the Art Academy St. Lucas in Brussels, in Belgium. She has had installations in many countries, and she's also a very innovative artist. She's developed particular technique that we're going to see and watch, I think, I hope. And been all over the world with her special techniques, and which she's very known for. She's also been a lecturer in numerous universities in Brussels, UAE. So Françoise F. Man in art, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christine. As always, really very honored to be here and to enjoy and to discover every time a lot of amazing ladies. And it's really hopeful, and it gives so much energy in everything what we do. This is to start. I choose this time to show more nature and landscape, things that, let's say, that the Mother Earth is giving us. And it comes from the fact that I wanted to start of the fact that I was adopted when I was 3 days old from my grandparents, and they speak French at home, and they put me in a Dutch school. And as first name Françoise, it was really not a present. And then very quickly, when I was 6, they told my parents that I had this issue of dyslexia. And from my 6 until I think 11, I had always separate classes, and I had to go a few times when the others were playing, or I was taken out of the class to be taken care of separately. And let's say I was blessed by an amazing man or amazing professor that was saying that dyslexia was actually not an issue, but it was a blessing. Because he said that dyslexia was something that superpower that made you able to make connection between things that other normal people that are going in the mainstream were not able to see. So the fact that you make dots between the invisible or the difficulties and that everything what became, for me, everything what is easy is extremely difficult. Everything what is difficult, I just jump in and it comes and it flows. And also, let's say then later on, choosing to be an artist, my parents were absolutely not happy at all. But yeah, I run away. And and then they give me my will, and I was able to study in the art school. And then after that, my first exhibition was organized by Le Théâtre Royal de la Monnaie in Brussels. So I had my first solo exhibition meanwhile that I was studying. So it was really great. And then yeah, I won a contest, and it was a house of Christian d'Autremont, one of the Cobra artists, that was writing écriture automatique, because Cobra was known that they were looking for the purity of childs and to again activate, let's say, our talent or our connection with the purity of a child. And so it means that I will take that literally and understand that the purity of a child can learn us a lot. And so I asked the most annoying kids to come and to learn me to draw. And I give them the best pencil that I had, and they really learned me a lot. And I decide after that special day to paint the anti-racism, and I paint Mannequin Peace and 9 provinces in that time of very strange, weird, Cobra-inspired men, and they were exhibited in the center of Brussels for 8 years. And it was a huge painting of 8 by 4 or something. And okay, that was a little bit the start. And as a pioneer artist, let's say, I was always searching things, hungry to find things, to discover things, to do things that were never done. So and also being bored by just seeing art and it was just there on the wall. So so I invented a type of art that is translating exactly what is for me going on. Everything changed, everything is in motion, everything is flowing, and this flow is surrounding us. And when we are maybe panicking for a situation, it's not important because tomorrow it's something else. And then it just go, and it's like the waves of the sea. And yeah, so it makes that this is the Louvre. I arrived in Abu Dhabi. I was 3 months in the desert to create amazing art, and I saw that they were building that building. And then, like every artist that saw that, I was dreaming to exhibit there, wishful thinking. So I paint that art piece 4 meters by 2. And the magical part is that they asked me to do a proposal. So I built a rainbow tunnel. And the rainbow tunnel, for me, one, rainbow is not connected to gay guys. No, sorry. Rainbow exists already much longer than gays, or maybe not, or whatever. It's not my problem, but I'm not gay, and I love also rainbow. And I believe that the rainbow is also the connection between earth and heaven. And so I created paintings that transformed, and that we feel somehow connection with the other dimension. This is a painting that I did recently for the church, and it is the peace agreement between Christian and Muslims. And they asked me to put Tutti Fratelli because the Pope wrote about it, and of course I'm a feminist, so E Sorella is an evidence. So, and then I put a Buddhist child on the top of these 2 men, because I believe that the meditation and the purity of a child is maybe the key of what what we are searching for. Yes, being a woman, being different, and no, okay, equality, of course, but I'm not equal to a man. I'm very different, and I'm proud to be very different. It's like comparing fire and water. Fire and water, you need the sun to make grow plants, but you need also the water. And for me, this is what a man and a woman is. We are yin-yang, we are complementary, and I embrace the complementary between us. So that's what for me is about. I put also Sheikh Zayed, because I live in UAE. He is, for me, like a father of that nation. He invent a country where lots of nationality are all together. The smile is on the face of each other. We have nice connection. I think that there is my friend Minou that can confirm. It's such a pleasure to live there and to be connected with each other and to be in peace, to be inspired by everything what is possible. And yeah, so I make lots of connection with UAE and the possibilities of dreaming. This is what UAE supports, dreaming, building, going for it. And now I'm exhibiting in Dubai Mall and Mall of the Emirates. I'm building an exhibition in both of them. In the it's the Digital Gallery, the first one in the world. And yeah, that's why I'm again a pioneer. And now it's the word to Christine.
Thank you. Wow. How beautiful. How beautiful. It was so interesting. Just in some of your paintings, I could just hear the voice of the Pope almost. And then with the child in there too, it was very, very beautiful. And so thank you for creating beauty and for sharing that with others and for having gone your journey. It's not easy when we feel different as a child, what you shared. So we see you, we hear you, and we acknowledge you, and thank you. Yeah. Okay, so big applause to her guest. Our next speaker is Mahmoud Samander. He is a lot of different things. I'll start with saying he's in charge of international expansion at Seoul. He's also the co-founder and the secretary general of the ethical business Building the Future. And he holds a PhD and is the Secretary General of Global Governance Forum, but he's also married 3 children and 2 granddaughters that I know he thinks is important. So Mahmoud, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think I remember particularly those 2 granddaughters here today because this is their future and therefore we are working for that too. Remember the other day when we were talking together with Christine, we were reminded of a quote that we had heard 15 years ago together, which says that men and women are like the 2 wings of a bird. As long as those 2 wings are not of the same strength and develop together, the bird cannot fly. So it's not a question of equality, it's the question. It's not the question of equality, it's the question of complementarity. It's the question of all together we are 100%. And this goes very much also with the purpose of Seoul. At Seoul, we are working to make sure that humanity, that the world will work for 100% of humanity. And when we are talking about 100% of humanity, we mean obviously all men and women, but we also mean 100% of each one of us. So this is all about developing what capacities and potential we have. One of the advantages of speaking towards the end of an evening is that many of the important things have been said. So it is not necessary to remind us of the challenges we have, you know, the famous 300 years that we were reminded of. It is not necessary either also to talk about all the good news that we have that everybody has shared, also all the good things that you are doing recently in UAE, where actually the 2 granddaughters live. Yeah. So Then we can also talk about some other things. Having set the stage for the fact that this is a world full of challenges and also a world full of potentialities, then the question is, what do we do? We are facing a world that is changing very rapidly. It has been said. That makes, for example, corporations worry mostly about 1 quarter to come, let alone think about 5 years ahead of them. So when we are facing a reality like this, what do we do? What do we do when we do not know what we are preparing ourselves for? We build capacity. Let's think of somebody who 500 years ago had the same challenge. Christopher Columbus, when he wanted to set sail and go discover another way to India, had no chart, no map. All he could count on was the capacity of himself and his sailors to read the stars, to know the sea, to understand the waves. So these are the elements that allowed him to face the unknown. So what is today the equivalent of those capacities for all of us to face the unknown? What we need is to have one fundamental understanding. Human beings, all of them, are noble in existence and in essence. They are endowed with all the capacities that are required for their own development and for the development of society. We all have it in us. What we need is to find a way to develop those capacities, to build those capacities. Just to give you an example, a few weeks ago in South Africa, we had a course with a group on HR. We asked the participants, what are your major issues at this moment? And everybody came up with the issues that they were facing. Then we asked them to close their eyes and imagine one moment that their company was a community. How would it look like? What would it feel like? What would the relations be in such a reality? And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, every answer to the second question was a solution to the first question. Transforming our companies, transforming our organizations into communities is going to allow us to be prepared for the unknown. Now, having done this at Soul.com for 23 years, 14 countries, several continents, hundreds of companies and organizations, we have seen that the process of capacity building, based on these concepts that I mentioned, also follows a path. The very first process for building a community is to establish what is the fundamental relationship among human beings. And because it has been said, I can at least share it with you. Trust. This is the first quality that we need to develop in order to transform our organizations into a community. And there are certain things that we need to do for that. We have to learn how to listen. We have to learn what a community is, and we have to decide what type of a community we want to build in our own organization. So this is one of the learnings of this process. And when we do this exercise, we ask people, what are the conditions for a community to emerge? The majority of answers, almost irrespective of culture, country, area, continent, are a few qualities that are service, resilience, caring, flexibility, acceptance, transparency, honesty. Are these not among those qualities that we call feminine qualities? This is what we need in order to transform our organizations, our companies, our countries into communities. And once we have acquired this capacity to do that, once we are ready to engage in meaningful conversations and build communities, the next step is to find a way to unlock our will to act. because knowing that we need to do something is not enough to do it. Something stops us from doing it. And we believe that the next thing we need is hope. And hope is not just saying, I hope tomorrow will be better. Hope is about the capacity of seeing potential. If we can see potential in others, we can work with them in a community. Another necessity for another requirement to develop hope is to be able to read reality. It has been mentioned already, the fake news and all of that. We need to develop our capacity to read reality independently and for ourselves to make the distinction between fake and true. And finally, what we need is to learn together. We have to learn together. And I'm really appreciative of this event because for me, basically, it's a learning event. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so true. That's so beautiful said. It's a learning event. And thank you for giving us hope through what you were sharing also for all of us. Our next speaker is Shivani Srivastava. She's the resident director of Global Citizen Forum. She has more than 2 decades of international experience and hospitality expert with extensive experience in the industry. She's now British national, and she received her bachelor in hotel management from Switzerland here at the Glion Hotel Management School, and pursued immediately her MBA in international marketing and change management from the University of Wales. She's traveled extensively, worked in many different countries, and I'll let Shivani continue her sharing of her journey. So Shivani,
Thank
it's
you,
a great
Christine.
honor. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I don't know if the mic is on. Yes, it is on.
It's on.
Well, thank you. And I think I want to start by thanking Rajashri Modi for giving me the opportunity to share my journey with all of you today. Also, thank you, Christine, for making it all happen. I know it's been a long day of listening to each other, so I hope I can keep all of you well awake as I share with you my story unfiltered. Now, the story of a girl from India who from an early age wanted to explore and travel and was fascinated with the pictures of women achievers back then. Yes, that was me. My global journey began at the young age of 11 when my school had an opportunity to send some students on an exchange program to Australia. Mind you, it had to be fully self-funded. Now, coming from a family where no one had ever traveled overseas and all of the women, for the lack of the better word, were housewives, it wasn't an easy task. However, my desire, my passion, and literally pleading with my parents made it happen. This trip ignited something in me. And a couple of years later, there was another exchange program to England. And begging my parents worked again. Mind you, I didn't come from a very wealthy family. However, my parents thankfully knew that the best education is experience, and they gave me just that. These exposures to life outside of my bubble back then were pretty tough. I mean, traveling to Australia and UK at the young age of 11 and 13, staying with another family for 2 months was quite scary. I was just grateful every night that I survived another day with their food and didn't make a fool out of myself on anything. It's true back then. Now, fast forward a few years, it was time to go to college. And I dared to dream again, this time on a bigger level. I wanted to go overseas and take this huge, expensive risk by going abroad to study an alien course in an alien country. Coming from a country that produces the most number of doctors, engineers, lawyers, here I was deciding to go to Switzerland to study hotel management. Now, mind you, 25 years ago, half the India didn't think one can go to Switzerland to study. For them, Switzerland was to shoot Bollywood movies, and that's all they saw in Switzerland. It was a significant financial, social, and mental challenge for me. I remember my mother saying, go achieve big things, but remember, do not do anything that will embarrass the family, as that would shut doors for many other girls in the family after me who will otherwise get inspired and would dare to spread their wings to fly. Now, clearly, she didn't anticipate me joining Rock, Paper, Scissor Club in the college. Talk about embarrassment. Jokes apart, that was a huge responsibility because hotel industry was not even considered an industry in India back then. And studying for it internationally meant spending one's life savings, learning in an environment that was not academically different, but from what I was used to, but culturally too. There were times when I went out of my way to explain to my classmate, yes, India is in Asia. And no, it's not a small village full of tech support agents named Raj. And no, we don't ride camels to school, and it's true. And yes, we do have cars in India, and many more such myths. It was very tiring and taxing, to be honest. And it was taxing to learn how little people knew about this fast growing economy, and my mission to bridge the gap began. With every experience, the desire to explore more manifested. And I landed in the UK doing my master's. I remember going for an interview at a central London hotel for a front desk assistant position, like a beginner's position. And my interview went on for 3 hours. I came out thinking, my God, if this was 3 hours, what will happen if I had to apply for a manager's role? The funny thing, though, and I share this with utmost humbleness, is that since that first interview in my life, I have never had to interview again for another position. I have changed companies, I have changed roles, but I can only guess that the sheer effort and dedication with which I have delivered in every role meant that the roles found me. And professionally, the doors just magically kept opening, as if I had a map of Hogwarts hanging in my office. No, I don't. In 2008, I remember working for a 5-star hotel in London, and we heard there would be a second opening in West Hollywood, Los Angeles. I casually told my husband about this, to which he was quick to say, "You should volunteer and go there to help with the opening." And you know what? Sometimes a little nudge from your loved ones can change your life, just like this one did for me. I had never thought of it before, but listening to him, the optimist in me said, "This could be a big chance, Shivani." Although the pessimistic side whispered, "Oh, please, like the company would even notice you, newbie." However, always want to take a chance, I presented my wish to the boss, and as if I had some sort of genie at my disposal, the universe granted me my fervent prayer, and soon after, I was sent to Los Angeles, USA for 3 weeks. I'm grateful that my hard work and dedication, doing whatever tasks were assigned to me with great enthusiasm, earned me the recognition and unforgettable experience. And not to mention, the stay was extended for 4 months. A successful 4-month stay and the launch at the hotel didn't go unnoticed. And soon after my return to London, the company offered me a global project management role based out of their head office in Chicago. The role gave me the opportunity to travel and meet from people across the globe, and also helped me jump 5 years ahead of my career. Now, however, in my 14 hotel openings, there were times when I had no idea or knowledge on what trainings to give tomorrow. I was giving trainings I was giving tomorrow. Because during the openings, there are always a lot of unknowns. And the best advice at the time was given to me by my boss, who said, you should always exude confidence, acknowledge the knowledge gaps for your personal growth, promise to always follow up. It's the key. And don't be nervous. When you enter the room, always own it. And this stayed with me even today. Interesting story and a big learning curve for me now. During my time at the head office in Chicago, a senior VP asked me about my future plans, and I naively confessed to her I wanted to be a general manager of a 5-star hotel. She looked at me dead in the eye and said, "Shivani, we have 52 hotels in Asia, 6, including 6 in India, and only 2 Indian GMs and no women." And then she winked at me and said, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" Well, did she have to say anything else? No. The message was loud and clear. But what could I do? But don't worry, it didn't deter me. I was very quick to pivot my career to corporate rather than sticking with hotel operations. And you know what? It's incidences like this that empowers you to work towards a more equitable world. And guess what? A few years later, I was the one interviewing GMs for prestigious 5-star hotels in London, and I selected many women GMs too. Let's talk about something not so glamorous. Harassment. Like many other women and men, I was once a victim of same at the workplace. The unwanted attention, those sleazy remarks, was extremely traumatizing and unsettling. I told my husband, "That's it, I'll have to leave this job, even though I loved it." He quipped and he said, "This can happen anywhere. How many of these jobs will you leave?" True, right? So I never thought of resigning again, not for this reason at least. And I tackled it with my head held high, And as a result, I have now become a strong advocate for creating a safe and respectful work environment for all employees. It's important for me to use my platform today to speak about these issues and work towards creating a change. You know, when you're presented with an opportunity that challenges your complacency or makes you scared and excited at the same time, you know it's time for you to take that plunge. Same thing happened with me. I was at a comfortable job in London with my friends and family, and then this opportunity knocked my doors to leave London and head an opening of a new wellness retreat in the Himalayas. At 35, when you're asked to head a new project, it sounds daunting, especially when you'll be all alone with your friends and family for over a year. But like they say, no matter the challenge, never forget you are capable of greatness. The retreat project was a smashing success, and I think some of you have visited the retreat. It taught me so much. It taught me life. And the challenges during the project made me stronger and wiser. Besides, I got to wake up every day to the sound of chirping birds and flowing Ganges. It's safe to say I fell in love with the Himalayas. But some challenges are easier than others. While I was doing all these career moves and juggling my career, there was a huge challenge in my life for years that had been taking a toll. Fertility issue. Yes, I was struggling with fertility issues, undergoing testing and treatments. In fact, I underwent several, and I mean several, unsuccessful rounds of IVF before finally one worked. However, unfortunately, resulted in a miscarriage very early on. It was challenging to stay positive and strong, when in the inside I felt so vulnerable. Not just that, years of such intense treatment impacts your overall body and mind, and my hormonal journey was almost overshadowing my professional one. Mostly surrounded by men at work, it was hard to explain to anyone what I was going through, let alone expect any understanding. Anyway, despite all the setbacks, I persevered. And today, by God's grace, I have a beautiful 3-year-old son who was conceived and born completely naturally, by the way. Today, I'm not embarrassed to say that there was a phase where it felt like I was going through hell. But I just kept going and thankfully made it out to the other side. Now, throughout my 25 years of global journey, I have visited 6 continents and worked or done projects in about 40 odd countries. It has only helped me to understand and appreciate different ways of life. On the other hand, I have encountered numerous people having preconceived notions based on my looks, ethnicity, and making assumptions about me just because of my color or ethnic origin. You know, I've never liked discussing unnecessary discussions on someone's culture or religion, especially at a workplace. I mean, if you really want to discuss, might as well discuss whether pineapple belongs on a pizza or not. You know, I'm happy to discuss. But in all seriousness, it's not easy being judged based on your characteristic or origin. That's why I'm proud to be associated today with Global Citizen Forum, an organization that values equality and respect for all. It's important to remember that we are never too small of a person to make a positive impact. I know building a world beyond gender, religion, and nationality may seem like an insurmountable task, but let me tell you, change begins with small steps. It begins with us as individuals, recognizing the value and worth of every human being. I believe that together we can work towards building a world where our success as human being is the only barometer that works, not the religion or the gender. Equality is not just a moral obligation, but also an economic one. Now, as a global harbinger, I'm on a mission to create a world that benefits all, with human well-being at the core. To achieve this, we must harness feminine power, stay connected, and take stand for justice and peace. In conclusion, I just want to leave you with my secret mantra. Embrace who you are, persevere through life's challenges, and always strive to be a better version of yourself. Let's celebrate our differences and recognize that we are all citizens of this planet Earth and should have equal love and respect for every individual. Together, let's be the change we want to see in the world. Thank you for listening to me so patiently.
Wow, what a beautiful journey and sharing, and particularly also sharing the behind the scenes. So many people have issues behind the scenes that we don't know about, and to share this so openly, and for women, all these hormone and hormonal journeys and sadness of the loss, and trying to put on a smile and pretend everything is normal.
okay. I'm strong.
Yeah. So it's many things. So I think that was very beautiful that you shared that, and also with such humor. So I loved all of this, and thank you so much. Yes, so I think because of time we can't comment anymore, because we have to get out of the room in about a couple of minutes. Do we have 4 minutes? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 4.5 minutes. Do we have Rashrish on the call?
Ashish will quickly say thank you.
He will say thank you.
Ashish.
Yeah, Raj. Oh, Ashish would like that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I would like to have. You can all be seated, or we need a place for Dr. Flood, Royston, and Ashish from Global. Yeah. Okay. If you have a strong voice, but maybe it's better you come here. Yeah. So he's on behalf of Rajrish Modi. Rajrish Modi.
Say Rajarishi.
Rajarishi. Rajarishi. I'm gonna get it. Okay. So yeah, we have to close in 4 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I think we have only 4 minutes, and I'll be covering in 1 minute.
Good.
I just want to invite, because I know, it's whole day, entire day has gone, and we have learned a lot of policymaker, lawmakers, and all other, I was crying at some places when I heard a lot of things around. The only thing I want to mention here is we have learned a lot today. How we have to implement, it's our decision. Do we have to grow up, or are we going to go home and sleep? For this, please do something. Stand up, love yourself, love your society, love your country, and make change. Be a change maker. For this, we are also inviting, we have a same series of event with GCF and with the same organization in the month of November 2023. You're all invited to come to India and be our guest. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will send out information on how you can apply to be a part of it. Thank you, thank you. Yes, we'll share information how you, yeah. And Royston, any closing words from you? 1 minute for you also.
Well, there you go. Firstly, to just say thank you to all of you, particularly Kristen. It's been enlightening at so many different levels. Speaking of the difference between men and women, I'm reminded of a plane. The masculine tends to be mental, physical, and the feminine tends to be emotional, spiritual. What happens is if one is in priority, you just go around in circles. It's just a choice of which way you go around. It's all about balance. And I think what we try and do in WIN and GCF is trying to find balance so we have a better life going forward, particularly with global harmony. And we're all pioneers. And I would say Kristen's an extraordinary pioneer. As a bit of fun, I keep on saying to her, she should be the Prime Minister of Norway.
Okay, just also, I would like to thank all of you for being part of this today. It was beautiful to have you all with us together. And also a little bit, thank yourself also that you took this day and made the extra effort. No change come without an extra effort, whether it is attracting in, rippling out, or doing things. Still is a little bit of an extra effort. And we want to be those extraordinary people with extra effort, pioneering, and in a way that creates harmony. So remember that, and you have to commit to it. Nothing happens without a commitment either. So let's commit together that we will continue to expand all the good things we are already doing and do even more. And take care of each other, rest, get sleep, and don't get burned out, okay? So on that note, thank you very much. And I think we can go up to see many of you and do that.